Welcome back to a new episode of DevDrawer. Today we are going to be going over how to create server directives inside of an htaccess file for a PHP-based application. We will learn how to remove HTML or PHP extensions, how to redirect from www to non-www or vice versa, how to redirect SSL, as well as create error pages, redirect specific file names, and even use the code that I used in a previous tutorial to create a simple MVC. Let's get started. Before I get too far into it, if you have not already done so and you like this kind of content, subscribe to the channel. I try to push out a new video at least once a week. If you are subscribed to the channel, thank you very much. My subscription numbers have been going up dramatically lately, and I do appreciate everything. So it's a good channel. Browse through some of the videos. If you like the kind of content that I do, subscribe to it, hit the bell notification so you're aware of next time I do a video, and give me a thumbs up in the videos. Alright, so just in case you're unaware what an htaccess file is, it's basically a server directive file, and it's primarily used if you're on a shared host. If you have access to the hosting files themselves, then you don't really necessarily need an htaccess file, but most sites probably aren't using their own server. If they are, then you probably have a server administrator that can handle these kind of requests for you by editing the specific server directive files. An htaccess file is kind of like a catch-all file that you can use to kind of prime your website a little bit whenever you don't have access to those files directly. For example, if you've ever installed WordPress, you can see that they all use an htaccess file in order to handle routing all pages through the index.php, which then passes on functionality. I kind of did something like this, similar to this, in a previous video, I think maybe last week or the week before, where basically we used an htaccess file in order to make it where everything was rerouted through our index.php file so that we can control it using PHP functionality rather than having to create individual pages for every bit of the content that we wanted. I'll go over that a little bit more in this tutorial. But in order to get started, first thing we need to do is create an htaccess file. So the way that you create that is it's a hidden file, so it may already exist on your server, but just in case it doesn't, it is .htaccess. So again, this file is primarily used if you're on a shared hosting server. And in that shared hosting server, you may want to do some things that your server isn't currently set up for. So I'm going to go ahead and create, let's do like an index.php file. And then I'm just going to refresh this so it shows this blank screen. Actually, let's go ahead and add some content. Let's do, let's say homepage, just so we know where we're at. So if we refresh this again, you can see that it says homepage now. So let's say if I wanted to create a another file, about.php or something like that, and I didn't want the PHP extension to be on that file. I can come over here to my htaccess file, and just FYI, if you're using something like GoDaddy hosting, there is some limitations that some hosting providers add, especially GoDaddy, just because this is something that I know from personal experience that they do, is they don't necessarily let you rewrite your remove the .html or .php extensions using the code that you normally would. So I'm going to add the directive for GoDaddy. It doesn't affect the rest of the stuff that we're going to do. It basically just makes sure that whenever you go to load it on GoDaddy, it works. So in order to make it work on GoDaddy and some other similar sites, hosting sites, we're going to do options, and then we're going to do plus multi-views, and this will, multi-view with the capital V, this will open up that door for us. So let's come down a little bit more, and this is where we actually are going to rewrite the code in order to remove that .php extension. So on your index.php, obviously, as you can see here, it's not even referencing the page just because that is the primary file in our website. If we created the about.php, we would have to access it directly using the .php, and we couldn't just do /about, or else it would break and show that that site didn't, or that page didn't actually exist. So let's start on working with this. So we're going to do rewrite. So rewrite engine, and we're going to turn it on. and then we're going to add a rewrite condition. So we're going to do rewrite CWRITE COND, and then we're going to do percent request file name, or not, percent curly brackets request file name, and then exclamation -f. And this actually needs to go, the curly brackets need to go at the end of request file name. So that's going to essentially take the condition that it's going to request the file name for us, and then it's going to use this rule that we're going to add using rewrite rule. And then we're just going to add some code. I know I've said this before. This is something I've always added in there. Essentially, what this is going to be doing is anything within these parentheses, it's going to be looking for to replace in order to remove it completely. So we're going to be doing, let's see, square bracket, arrow, period, plus. Okay, so that should cover most of it. And then we close out this regular expression, and then we want to replace it with .php. We're going to do ncl, and these the ending of this is basically just telling it that this is where we want this to end at. So now, if we come over here and create a new file, we're going to call it about.php. Then we go to our browser. We can access it by either going to about.php. Let me add some content here. So h1 about page, just so we can tell that it's coming here. So we can either go there, or we can remove the PHP extension, and you can see that now it also loads the about without the extension. However, this is again something that we don't necessarily want it to do, where we don't want this to be accessible anymore at all. So we want it to actually redirect from the .php to the -php. So let me leave that open for now, and I'm going to go back into our htaccess file. And if you aren't using PHP for this, you're using HTML extensions, essentially you would just replace the .php with the .html. It'll work the same way. So now let's go down, and I want to make it where it doesn't do the .php, it automatically redirects to the non.php version of it. So we're going to do rewrite condition, and then we're going to do the parentheses, the request, and then we're going to write our regular expression in order to take it and tell it what we're trying to do with it. So we're going to do s/period plus, and this is again just a regular expression. You can Google these regular expressions and they can show you what they mean, but basically it's just looking for certain things, and then it's quantifying what the results are going to be. So now we want to make sure that the rewrite condition includes the .php, and then we're going to add an nc at the end of it, and then we want our rewrite rule now to say just go to what it is without the .php, and then we want to make sure that we're doing a redirect that's a 301, and just add our final variables to it. Okay, so now if we come over here and we refresh this, it's redirecting us to our home page. Let me see, what did I do to make it redirect to the home page? Okay, so one thing whenever you're working with your server directive files, you either need to, sometimes the changes that you make need to be reflected in a server reload or in a new session. So I went ahead and just opened up the page in a incognito mode just to make this part a little bit easier to work with. So that's the reason why the information up here looks different, just because we're in incognito mode. And I also noticed that this isn't supposed to be a $sign, it's supposed to be a % sign. So now if I save this and I go back to our about, that should still work, and if I type in about.php, it now redirects us to about instead of the home page. So opening up incognito mode kind of fixed that for me, after I realized that it was supposed to be a % there instead of a $sign. And also, some of these other things that you need to worry about, like this L means that anything after this rewrite rule for this specific condition, it basically exits out. This means that it's going to be case sensitive, and this NE means no escape. This is particularly helpful if the URL is ending in a question mark or an ampersand. Okay, let's go ahead and continue with what we are working on. Let's see, so let me label these so that they make more sense. So we're going to do hashtag flag for GoDaddy. Then let's come over here and we're going to do, this one's going to be remove extensions. Remove extensions, and then redirect from extensions to non-extensions. Okay, so now we have the two biggest ones out of the way. So now we have our about page that can be accessed whenever it tries to be accessed using the .php, it redirects here. So what we can do now is take it a step further. I can't show you these specifically, so I'm going to put these as server only, just because it doesn't work on the local environment, because obviously I don't have an SSL or anything like that installed on it. So I'm just going to show you these so you have them to be able to reference. So the first one we want to do is do a redirect from www to non-www. This one is probably the most commonly used one outside of like the HTTPS. And essentially what we need to do is do a rewrite condition. And that rewrite condition again is going to be using the request. So the request, not inside of parentheses, but inside of curly brackets. And then we are going to pass in, no, not the request. This is going to be, sorry, getting my documentation mixed up. HTTP host, and then we're going to say that if it has a www, so we're going to be looking for the www and then slash period. Just because you can't do www period, it's going to be www slash in order for the htaccess file to read it, and then pretty much anything that comes after that slash, or that, I'm sorry, that period. Then NC. So that is the condition that we want, and the rewrite rule that we want to have is to have it point to just the HTTP or HTTPS version of your site. So we're going to do this again, star. Pretty much everything goes to either HTTP or HTTPS, and then ://%1/$1. So that way you'll kind of pick up any of your primary domain as well as any files that you have on that domain as well. And these have to be done in a certain order, because you can't have it where it's trying to redirect to your www and then it runs through the PHP code that we have up here, just because this is the way that the htaccess file looks at it. I mean, you theoretically can do it, but the way that it looks at it, it's basically going in an order of operations. So you want to make sure your order of operations is redirecting it how you want to. Okay, so this is how we redirect it from the www to the non-www, but we can also do it the reverse. So non-www to www. And in order to do that, we have to set up another condition, and then that condition is pretty much the same as what we had before, but we're not going to be looking for the www because it doesn't exist if you don't have it on there. So we're going to do your domain, and then let's do /.com. So whatever your domain is, you put that in there. And then we want to have it where it redirects using pretty much the exact same information, but now it's going to be going to either HTTP or HTTPS, and then instead of these two here, we're going to be doing the www version of your domain.com/$1. And then let's reverse these here. So we're going to do L301. Okay, so that should cover whether you want to go to a redirect from a www to a non-www, or from a non-www to a www. Now, the other thing that is most common with htaccess files is the HTTPS. So in order to do this, we need to first make sure our rewrite engine is on. I'm just going to add it here. So let's do SSL. So SSL Redirect. So, and I'm also going to add the rewrite engine here. So we're going to do rewrite engine on. And I'm only doing this just because if you wanted to copy this code over, you would copy the whole thing over. But for right now, I'm not going to be, we're not going to be using any of these individually because they are based on this rewrite engine up here. And I actually need to go ahead and do the hash symbol for all of these as well, just because if I try to run them right now, it's going to break my local server, because I do not want that to happen. Alright, so we got our rewrite engine on, and then we're going to do our rewrite condition is going to be the HTTPS. We have to check to see if it's on or not. So we're going to do %HTTPS, and if it's not on, we want to write the rule. Alright, so let's do let's see, rewrite rule. And then we want it to basically say that everything needs to be rewritten to the HTTPS version of the site. So now we do %, and we're just going to pass the HTTP host, and then we're going to do %, and we're going to pass the request URI, and that'll basically take it where if it's HTTPS is not turned on for that specific page, it'll redirect it to that page and that domain automatically. So those are the three that are most used. These up here are more or less used if you're writing your own PHP page and you just don't want to have the extension just because they're better for SEO. So let's get into some other ones that may be of interest to some people. Like, for example, let's create our own error pages. So we're going to do create error pages. So let me go to the browser, and let's say if we went to contact, because contact doesn't exist, it's going to show this not found, the default information that you would see for an Apache server in this case. So what I wanted to do is actually display a page that I can control. So we're going to create our error documents. So error document, and then we want to say that if it's a 404, we're going to pass in a folder called errors/404.html. And then on my directory, I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it errors. And then I'm going to create a new file, call it 404.html. And I'm just going to add in h1 404 not found. And then if we go back to our browser and refresh, now we have our 404 not found. And you can do this for a wide amount of other error pages. So let's say we got our 404. Another common one would be a 500 error. So let's do our 500 error. And let's see another one. Let's do a 403. So we got 403.html. And basically those are going to be, if we open this one, we're going to change this to 500 server error. And then this 403 is going to be a forbidden error. So forbidden, and I think 403 forbidden, server error not found. Okay, and let's go ahead and add in one more. So we're going to do a 401 because we're going to be using that one in a second. So let's do a 401, and this is going to be a 401 unauthorized. Unauthorized. Okay, so we have our error pages in our htaccess file. We just need to create references to those pages, and I'm going to leave the 401 off of it for now. So let's do the 403 is going to go to a 403, and then the 500 is going to go to a 500. So now if any of those errors are hit, it'll display the HTML that we want it to rather than the generic server page that you may see in a lot of servers. So you can actually customize those a little bit more. Okay, so let's say if we didn't want to do it this way, we didn't want to have the possibility for a 404 error to happen. This is what I used in my previous tutorial, and basically it's like it allows you to create a simple MVC, kind of the way that WordPress does it. So we already have the code up there to rewrite our URLs to make it where they're actually functional without the .php in it. So now we're going to take it a step further, and we're going to redirect non-existing pages to index.php. So this is useful because you can basically create your index.php and then pull all of your other pages off of a database, using JavaScript or using PHP code, but you can only it makes it where you can only create one page, but it can turn into an entire website the same way that WordPress does it. So in order to do this, we need to turn on an option. So we need to do options, and then we need to add symlinks. That's a capital L. So symlinks if owner match. This will make it where that it's going to check to see if the symbolic links for our server matches the server that it's coming from. And then we want to make sure our rewrite engine is on, which it already is, but we're going to just turn it on again anyway. And then we need to do our rewrite condition, and if it doesn't find a real link, we want it to process the file and then just send whatever that it's looking for, the URL, to be reflective on the index.php. So we're going to do request file name exclamation -f, and then we want to do another rewrite condition, and it's going to be the request file name again. So request file name, and then it's going to be exclamation -d, and then we're going to do our rewrite rule, and this is just going to be index.php, and that's it. So now if we go back to our site and they got this contact, if we refresh it, now it's still showing the URL here as contact, but it's reflecting the content that we currently have in our index.php. So this is where you could go and create, views, and if you've ever used Laravel or any of the PHP frameworks, this is kind of what they do. They take what you are looking for, and instead of having to create these pages manually like we did with this about.php, they would just create a reference to about that would be either hitting a database or hitting a JSON file or using JavaScript, but it would, all of the functionality would be contained inside of this index.php, whether it links out to a controller or a class or a function, or it just displays information on this page itself. Now this doesn't affect the other pages, it only looks for the pages that doesn't exist. So we can have our about page that still references our about information that we've added to the about.php, but if this page didn't exist, it would display the information from the index.php, and then we would just control what it's displaying based on whatever this reference to the URL is. And like I said previously, you can check out a video that I've done, I think it was last week or the week before, where I kind of utilized this a little bit in order to help display some of the information that I was currently building. But this is pretty useful how we currently have it. And for the most part, that is what you're going to be getting out of htaccess, but there is a few more things that you can do. Let me go ahead and close down some of these things so that they're not open any longer, and we can kind of move on to another part that's pretty cool. So I'm going to create a new folder, and this is going to be called secret, because now I want to have it where you can't access this specific folder unless you put in a password, and you can control that through htaccess as well, and it's fairly secured. I mean, you can hash your passwords. You can also have open text passwords, which is not recommended, but you can hash your passwords and make it where, you know, if you have a specific secret folder that you only want certain people to be able to use, you can give them a username and a password associated with that folder. So inside of this folder, we're going to create another htaccess. And the reason why you have to create another htaccess file is that htaccess files basically inherit from the parent. So if we don't have an htaccess file, any of the directives that we added to the htaccess file here will inherit and will be usable inside of our secret folder, which we don't want to happen. So, you know, the secret folder needs to have its own directives and its own abilities. So in here, we're going to once again turn on our rewrite engine. We're going to make sure it's on, and then we're going to rewrite our base. So we're going to rewrite base, and we're going to do /secret. So now this htaccess file knows that it's only pulling directives from this one folder. And you can even take this a step further and take this rewrite base, and you can put it into the top of your file over here and just do it as a / so that this htaccess file knows that it's interacting with anything and everything on this server unless another htaccess file tells it not to, like this one does. So if we go over to the the secret folder, so secret, and we're inside that folder, right now it's going to show nothing because nothing's there. If it was using the other htaccess file, it would have showed us the index.php content, but we don't want that to happen, so that's why we added this in here and gave it its own htaccess file. So the way that you create a htaccess file that controls a password is you have to have an associated file, htapassword, that you can use to store username, login, and information. So username and password combinations. So I'm going to go ahead and do it two ways. First way is going to be we're going to protect a file. So I want to protect a single file here, and in order to do this, you need to add files, and then let's just say admin.php, because that's going to be our secret file that we don't want anybody to see unless they have a password. So we're going to do auth name, and you can name this whatever you want. I'm just going to say access to admin file, and then we're going to do auth type basic, and then we need to create this ht password file. So let's go in here and we're going to do a new file. It's going to be .htpasswd. So inside of this file is where we're going to store our username and password. So we need to reference that file. So we're going to do auth user file, and I need to actually find that file URL, so bear with me just a second. So we have this secret here. Okay, so yours would be different. Right now, again, I'm on a local, so it's going to be a local file, but yours would be actually pointing to the not the URL, but the actual directories of where this file is located. So we called it htapasswd. Okay, so that is our auth file that is being stored inside of this folder that can be used for passwords. And then the last thing we're going to do is require valid user. Okay, so now we have this htapassword, and in the htapassword you can store information. Like, for example, we can do the dev drawer, and then our password can be password. Obviously that is not very secure, so we're not going to keep it like that, but I'm going to show you how it works. So if we refresh this, our directory access is still the same. So I'm going to create a new file, index.php. In this one I'm just going to say secret directory. So if I refresh over here, we can see that our secret directory is it's working because we didn't block off the secret directory. What we did was we blocked off a new file called admin.php. So I'm going to change this to admin. Okay, so admin. Now if we refresh this and we try to go to admin.php, because again, remember, we don't have the extension removed from this htaccess. So if we try to do just /admin, it wouldn't work. But if we try to do it now, you can see that there is a pop-up that's asking us to sign in. So if we do the dev drawer and then put our password as password, we can sign in and we can now see the admin file. And if we go back to our secret, of course that still works. It's just that wasn't actually tied off. So now we can make it where this file is actually being protected as well. So I'm going to copy this entire thing and we're going to do protect a directory. And basically the only thing we need to do is remove the files calls. So it's not calling a specific file, it's calling pretty much anything that's accessible inside of this secret folder. It will it'll pass it along. So once you authenticate, you won't have to authenticate again. So I'm pretty sure by adding this, if I go to refresh the home page of this directory, it's not going to ask me for the password again because it's already been validated based on that one HT password. So let's see, we're going to do access to admin directory. And now if we refresh this, of course it's not going to do anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this URL and I'm going to open up another incognito mode to see if we can get it to work, and I can show you what happens if you decline it. Okay, so now I reloaded the browser just because I wanted to clear out the password that we have previously entered. So if I go to secret now, it'll show me a pop-up saying that I need to put in a password. If I cancel out of this, it's going to show me this unauthorized. I also want to be able to control that, and that's where we created this 401. So we need to do the same thing that we did for the other error files. We need to also do that here. So let's go down here and we're going to do error page for unauthorized. And then I'm just going to move over to my other htaccess. I'm just going to copy what I have because it's essentially the same thing. Go over here, then we're going to open up our htaccess. We're going to paste this here, and instead of being a 500 error, it's going to be a 401 and 401. So now if we come back to our browser and we refresh and we cancel this, now we have this 401 unauthorized because we can no longer access anything inside of this folder. So if we refresh it again and we signed in, it would then show us access. But again, I don't want to leave my password as password, so there is a website that you can go to. I just found this one. It helps you generate this information, so I'm going to open it over here. I'll have it in a link below in the description, but basically it's hostingcanada.org HT password generator. And what it does here is you put in your username, so the dev drawer password, I'm just going to say password again, and then I'm going to use bcrypt to encrypt it, just because you can see here insecure but common, and then bcrypt is it's better than SHA-1 or MD5. So we're going to create that HT password file, and it's basically going to give us the same thing that we put inside of our dev drawer :password, but the password is now encrypted. So we're just going to copy that over and paste it in. Now if we refresh again and we go to log in, the dev drawer, and then our password again is password, but now it's encrypted, we go to hit sign in, we can still access this directory. So let me see if there's anything else I can think of with htaccess. No, I think that's about it. So in this tutorial we learned how to, let me correct this, we learned how to remove the extensions, redirect the extension version of the URL to the non-extension version of the URL, and then we also learned how to didn't see it, but we learned how to do it. Redirect from www to non-www or non-www to www. And we also saw how to redirect all pages to an SSL version of it, how to create our error pages, and you can create whatever kind of error pages you want here. They don't have to be HTML, they can be PHP as well. And then we also found a way to not utilize the 404 here and redirect the existing or non-existing pages to the index.php to kind of create your own kind of MVC. And then lastly, inside of this secret folder, we learned how to add an htaccess file to a subdirectory and have that htaccess file reference that subdirectory, as well as be able to protect a file and be able to protect your directory and then create another error document for our unauthorized users inside of this directory. So I think that pretty much covers any of the good stuff that you would need to know about htaccess. There's a lot of other stuff you can learn about it, but this is the ones that in my history I've come across that I've had to use at least once or twice somewhere. Actually, there is something else I can show you. So I didn't go over how to create, in order for this to work, I'm going to have to get rid of these. I'm going to show you how to redirect from a specific page to another specific page. I completely forgot about that one. Let's go ahead and do that one real quick. And we're going to do a redirect to a different page. So let's say you have an old page, you want to go to a new page. So we're going to do redirect to a URL on the same domain or host. The way that you do this is you're going to do redirect, and we're going to pass 301, and let's just say we have test 1 that we want to redirect to test 2. So if we go to our browser and we try to go to test 1, it's going to redirect us to test 2, and obviously it's not found because we didn't create this file and it's not using the index. And I could probably actually, now that I think about it, I could probably use this anyway, and I don't think it will affect the redirect that I need to do. So reload that, and we go back to test 1. Yeah, it doesn't affect it. So we can keep both of those active. Alright, and the last thing is how to redirect from a specific page to an entirely different domain. So let's do redirect to a different domain. And this is essentially the exact same as it is up here, except instead of doing a slash to the URL you're wanting, or the page you're wanting to go, you would type in http :/ or https, whichever one you have, and then I'm just going to use example.com. So if we type in test 1 now, it's actually going to redirect us to example.com. So let's do test 1, and it's still redirecting us. It's probably because I'm going to have to open up a new browser. But essentially you can see what's happening. Let me actually change this so I can actually show it to you. So instead of doing test 1, let's try another page we haven't hit, which will be service. So let's do service, which redirects us to example.com. Okay, so I think that about covers it for the htaccess server directives. If you have any questions, hit me up down below. If you like this kind of video, I have other PHP-based videos, server-based videos on my channel, so give them a look over. If you did like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. It does help with the growth of the channel. So I guess that's going to do it for now, and thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.